What's going on, guys? Welcome back to NolanTCG, and we are back here today for another deck profile, and this time it's for Pendulum Magician Kick's Chair. With a lot of Pendulum Edition stuff coming back on the previous ban list, we got double RS to 3 now. We also got Skullcrabat Joker. I went to say Pensork. I was like, if only. We're getting both of those back off to the ban list on 2 to 3 respectively. So yeah, it does make the deck a whole lot more consistent. There's a whole lot more plays you can kind of more consistently do, but we do kind of find ourselves in that old situation where pen call's no longer as good as it used to be. Spoilers, we are playing pen call, but that is something you do need to keep in mind when you're playing the deck, of course. But as always, before we do get started, please remember to drop down below and hit that subscribe button if you are new here. Jesus, we're stumbling over everything this morning, because we're always happy to have new people to the channel. But let's get on into the deck profile. Before we do get started on this one, though, it is brought to you, of course, by yourplaymat.com, who got us our beautiful NolanTCG extra deck sleeves. These are available on yourplaymat.com, as well as you can get custom sleeves and custom playmats, so whatever you need for the current format. There is an affiliate link in the description down below that does get you a little bit of a discount on your order. Also, enter the code NOLAN10YP for 10% off your order. Also kicks back a little bit to the channel, so everything will be very much appreciated. If you're shopping there, you're getting custom sleeves, custom playmats down. Make sure to enter our code at checkout. But let's get on into this deck profile. Okay, so starting us off, we have our Pendulum Magician line, of course. So that does start us off with the 3 copies of Double RS Magician. To be honest, our card never really should have been on the ban list to begin with. It made little sense, but it made a tiny little bit of sense. So, of course, it got hit. Because everyone was zarking, and that was a huge problem. And getting zarked was just, like, really, really bad, guys. You don't have the PTSD that I do. You just gotta believe me. But yeah, we do now have it back. Means you can get those searches off for the Pendulum Graph cards. You don't need to play 3 Pendulum Graph cards in this list. We are just playing 1, of course. And yeah, is searchable. Do keep in mind, you do not have access to this if you activate Pen Call. I'm almost certain that is correct. If there is something that I'm not seeing, do make sure to comment that down below. But yeah, as far as I'm aware, that's what I'm aware of. Then for the rest of our Magician line, we do have 3 copies of Harmonizing Magician. Of course, the tuner that summons from deck, you can't really say no to this. 3 copies of Wisdom Wire, because it basically toolboxes out your entire pen scale. Basically, if you have one, this plus another, this gains access to other stuff. You can then recur this back. Free resources, really. Then for our one-offs, we are playing 1 copy of Oath Dragon Magician. Of course, this is what I will typically get off the Wisdom Wire. Because it's a low scale, it can also get resources back to your hand, so you're not burning those cards coming out of the extra deck for your pen summons. Then we have 1 copy of Purple Poison, another toolboxing low scale. Of course, you go into the one off this if you don't want to use the Oath Dragon. And then it gets you the free pop as well. It's of course a level 4 that lets you keep playing. And then lastly, we have 1 copy of Dragon Pit. Dragon Pit is a high scale, however it is also a 7, which helps you get into Borrowed Savage Dragon. Then we do have the last of our kind of Magician line, I guess. That is 3 copies of Chronograph Sorcerer, and then the 1 copy of Time Gazer. We do have plays in this deck that will be necessary to have a Time Gazer to facilitate. We'll talk about that when we get to it, when we start going through our extra deck. Then next off, we get into our Performer Pal line. Of course, we do have Joker back to 2, which does mean 2 copies of Performer Pal Skullcrabat Joker are here. Typically, you're going to be normal summoning this at the end of the combos that I try to traditionally do. I don't really normal summon first. I've built this deck to have as many free summons as possible to kind of get you rolling. However, in that situation, you do end up getting to a free search for a Dark Spellcaster, of course. You search your Skullcrabat Joker, you slap it down on board, you search your Pensork, and then you can kind of do cute things without your opponent's turn. Then after that, we've got 2 copies of Celestial Magician. Card, just a generically good Pendulum card. It gets you resources for the next turn, whilst giving you a level 4 body on board for you to continue playing. And then lastly, of course, 3 copies of Performer Pal Pendulum Sorcerer. It searches the 2 cards we mentioned previously. You can, of course, summon it on your opponent's turn with Selene, which is something cute that you can do. Then you can pop off things like your Artifact Scythe, spoiler that we're playing. Summon the Scythe, then you get more resources for next turn. Just a cute card that is fun to play. And then after that, we get into our Supreme King package. So we are playing the Dark Worm, because it is a free extension. So we've got the 3 copies of Dark Worm, along with the 1 copy of Supreme King Gate 0. Again, this is a 7 that we can use for our Borrowed Savage plays. Then we have the last card that is a Pendulum monster in our deck. That is 1 copy of Abyss Actor Curtain Raiser. It's effectively just a free extension piece. We want to have either Dark Worm or the Curtain Raiser, because it's just a free 4 we can pop on board. Then lastly, we have our 2 monsters. We're playing just 1 copy of Tuning Magician in the deck. I don't have multiple Hulks, so there's not necessarily a need to have multiple Tuning Magicians. Sometimes it would be nice to have 2 because you just kind of run into situations where you've drawn it, and then you can't summon it from deck with the Hulk. However, it's fine at 1. Like, if you want to play 2, you can play 2, but I wanted to keep this as tight to 40 cards without playing the tech options that I wish to play. And then, of course, lastly, the 1 artifact scythe. You set it off the Dagda, you pop it on either your opponent's turn, or you pop it with their... there's 2 ways to pop it on the opponent's turn, so you should always have access to that. Do keep that in mind. And then we go into our spell line. Of course, this does come up to the next card, which is Pendulum Call. I'm still super iffy on playing Pendulum Call. If we get... Like, of course, it's a great card. It's a free search for 2 cards. If you open it with Darkworm, it's, like, even better. However, if we do get Electromite back to 1... I cut this completely. There just becomes way too many cards that go plus when you pop, and this prevents you from popping, which kind of really, really sucks. Then next off, we have 3 copies of Duelist Alliance, so 1, 2, and 3. Of course, searches your Pendulum Call as well as other stuff. Then we have 1 copy of Star Pendulum Graph, now searchable with the double iris. Overall, not super necessary. It's something you can consider just completely cutting from the list. Then we play 2 ways to send the Darkworm to the graveyard, in the 1 copy of Foolish Burial and 1 copy of Dragon Shrine. And then lastly, 1 copy of Time Pendulum Graph. Again, it's searchable, and it is just essentially free disruption on your opponent's turn. Okay, now we get into our extra deck, and of course, our extra deck is fine. It does have a lot of, like, staple Pendulum cards. First off, we have the 1 copy of Crystron Halka Fibrax. You can consider playing this at 2 if you have it at 2. The deck does give you more things you can overall just kind of push through and create when you only have when you have 2 of this. So that would be a recommendation that I would make, but overall, I just don't own 2. I've gambled on the past year and a half of this getting put on the ban list to 1, and it never has, so backfired for me quite a lot. Then we have 1 copy of Artifact Dagda after that. Gets you the Artifact monster out of the deck, sets it, and then of course you just try and pop it with your own stuff. 2 copies of Selene follow that up. Selene at 2 is 100% necessary for this. Overall, you're going to be generating this and its ability to special summon every turn. So you want to either use it to get into access code. You can get, if you're in the perfect world, you can get into a situation where you haven't Pendulum summoned yet. That's 3 arrows pointing down, and then you've got big plays after that. But overall, you do need this card at 2. You want to be able to pop it out every time. Once when you're setting up, once when you're killing your opponent. Then we go into our 2 Link 4s. So going first, we have the 1 copy of Appaloosa for obvious reasons, gets you the monster negates, and 1 copy of access code because it breaks boards and pushes for game. Then we go into our XCs. Our XCs line is pretty small. We do have the 1 Tornado Dragon if you get into situations where you need to use it to pop the artifact monster. 1 copy of Abyss Dweller, of course, to floodgate out the extra deck because a lot of decks don't like that. And 1 copy of Time Star Magician, of course, to search your Dark Spellcasters, can also provide that little bit of protection. Then we go into our Synchro package. Our Synchro package is actually pretty wide at 6 Synchro cards. Some of them are tech choices for future formats, which is the reason why we're going to go into that when we get to it. But of course, first off, we have the TG Wonder Magician. Summon it off the Halka Fibrax, then use its effect to pop the Dagda. 1 copy of Dawn Dragster. Of course, it is a 7 that leads to negates. It is something that you can interact with your Time Star with. And then lastly, it's 1 copy of Shooting Riser Dragon. The reason why I've decided to put 1 copy of Shooting Riser Dragon into the deck is for when, in the next format, when we are seeing Sword Soul come in after Burst of Destiny. There won't be an update to this deck list before then, which is why we're playing the 1 Shooting Riser Dragon. You'll essentially be siding token collectors, and if you go into Shooting Riser Dragon, you can Foolish the Token Collector. It then goes down to a 3, then you have the Token Collector live for next turn, then you can sync off with that into Dawn Dragstar, with another 4 into Dawn Dragstar, or you can do other cute plays, which we'll kind of go through next, but they aren't the best liners of play for that. You would prefer to go into the Dawn Dragstar after that. Then we have our 2 8s, so we've got 1 copy of Borreload Savage Dragon, and the 15th card in the extra deck. This is what I would cut for the Hulk. It is 1 copy of Cyframe Lord Omega. It is essentially just the 8 you make in the situations where you don't have a Link monster in grave yet, and that's your only kind of line to play. That's when we're making the Cyframe Lord Omega. And then lastly, we have the 15th card in the extra deck. It is the new card. It is 1 copy of Stellar Wind Wolf Riot. Effectively, it's a board wipe. You summon it on board with 25. It gains 300 every time a monster effect activates while you control. And while it has 4,000 attack or more, it just becomes a board wipe, basically. I shuffle this card into the deck and all monsters your opponent controls, which is pretty damn good. But that wraps us up here for the deck profile for this one. So as always, if you do any recommendations or things you would change, do make sure to comment them down below. I skipped the word have out of that last sentence, so insert that as you wish. And as always, I've been Ben from NolanTCG, and have a good afternoon, everybody.